John, firstly, could you just introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's John Knight, and I'm one of the founders and publishers of Pitt Street Poetry.
And John, how did you get into the industry?
Well, I've always loved poetry, and for a while I was studying to be an English academic, but then my career took a different path. My wife has been in publishing all of her career. So about 7 years ago, we had a friend, a very distinguished poet, who produced a manuscript. Actually, as the result of an Arts Council grant, he spent 6 months in Paris and produced a manuscript, and he was looking for a publisher. And I turned to Lindsay and said, why don't we try and publish it? So we did, and that was our first book. And in the past 7 years, we've published 40 books of contemporary poetry from 24 different poets. So one thing led to another. We found we enjoyed publishing poetry, we found we could make a contribution, and Pitt Street Poetry was born.
Wow. And could you tell me about what your day-to-day working life is like at the moment?
Well, we're a micro press, so it's not a full-time job for me, and it's not a full-time job for Lindsay. I have a full-time job as a medical researcher, and Lindsay has a full-time job as the publisher of Walker Books, a large children's book imprint. So we run Pitt Street Poetry in the evenings and the weekends and in our spare time. But despite that time constraint, we manage to publish 6 poetry books a year, just by organising ourselves and making sure that we can respond to the poets and respond to the community who buy our books too.
That's great. And so for students who are thinking about going into the industry as writers or as editors, do you have any advice for them?
Yes, I do. There's been revolutionary change in publishing. The advent of digital printing, print on demand, and in particular ebooks, means that the barriers to setting up and running a small publishing enterprise have really disappeared. If you can do a good job of producing beautiful books, if you can find quality writers, you can set up a small company, publish some books, make some money. You don't have to be part of a huge international conglomerate.
Do I have time to ask one more question?
Yes, you do.
How do you select your poets? How do you know that's we should publish these?
It comes down to one word: quality. You know, we think that poetry is a craft as well as an art, and you need to learn the craft just like you learn carpentry or you learn to play the cello. So we don't believe that poetry can just pour out spontaneously and be of good quality. That very rarely happens. So we look for poets who've learnt their craft, who've often published widely in small magazines and the newspapers, who might have won a number of poetry prizes, and who are ready, as a result of years of apprenticeship and careful tuning of their craft, they're ready to produce a book. Once that manuscript is there, I guess we have to a little bit fall in love with the work.